which brings us to panel number 2. And I have to tell you, interesting people with incredible backgrounds, and it's so much fun for me. I love reading the bios because there's so much that's here, and in introducing our guests. So first up, we're going to welcome Arjun Andy Jasuja. He's the founder and chairman of Sigma Group of Companies. Sigma Group is a privately held company headquartered in Toronto, Canada, with a growing portfolio spanning diverse industries, including technology, marketing, real estate, hospitality, finance, and lending. He's a serial entrepreneur, building and acquiring companies, and has raised millions of dollars from a wide variety of groups, including Kleiner Perkins, Morgan Stanley, Redwood Ventures, Cisco. And I noted here, I was particularly interested that he began his career in information technology in 1975 at Tata Consultancy Services in India. And that is special to us, as Mr. Tata is on our advisory board in India for the Schulich School of Business. So I always love to see that. Quite the incredible gentleman. And I'm sure you had an adventure there when you started out with your career. Yeah, Andy holds a Master of Applied Science degree in Systems Design Engineering from the University of Waterloo and a BTech in Electronics Engineering from the Indian Institute of Technology. Welcome, Andy. Next, I'm going to introduce Mr. Vijay Thomas, who is also my co-host today, from Tangentia. And Tangentia is one of the 500 most profitable companies in Canada in 2019. 5,000 fastest growing in the US, a global player in artificial intelligence, e-commerce, digital solutions, and consulting. And the 2019 Technology Achievement Award from the Indo-Canada Chamber of Commerce. And I like this part because this is how I started. He started the company from his condo downtown. I wasn't downtown, but I started my company from my apartment. So I respect anyone who starts out like that. So Vijay, welcome today. And we're excited to have you in this next piece of the panel.
I didn't have a garage to start it, so I had to be the condo.
Perfect. I always tell people when I started, I had 2 computers, my best friend, and a cat. That's it. Those were the assets. Next, I'm excited to welcome Mr. Mudit Rawat, and he's a great friend to the Schulich community. He's currently working as an investor, board director, and executive advisor at Planet Corp. He's a 2-times founder with 10 plus years of experience working in technology and retail, and a wide variety of experiences. He founded Nexus Commerce most recently in 2017, was then quickly acquired by Tompkins International in 2019. He was also the founder and CEO of Herbery, a personalized on-demand grocery and alcohol shopping service based in Toronto. And he's now an active angel investor, as well as working with Planet Corp on a variety of exciting initiatives. We're excited for some of his angel investing because it impacted on our Schulich startups community. This summer, he was one of the key investors in getting behind Swift, which is a company we're really excited out of Schulich startups. And most recently, as one of our alumni, he came back to speak and headline Schulich Startup Night 14 in the fall. Welcome to the 3 of you. And Jeffrey, I'll turn it over to you for the next panel.
Awesome. Thank you very much, Chris. Welcome, everybody. Very excited for our second panel. And because you guys, just as the 2 gentlemen before, really deep into the community side and building inside of the investment early stage area. And now I've got 3 investors across all different spectrums doing the same thing. So it's brilliant that we get the opportunity to chat. So maybe what we'll do is we'll start off with just a little bit of a background on kind of where you are today, just to kind of clear this up. And maybe we can start with Vijay, just to give us a little bit of an understanding of kind of where you're at right now and talk a little bit about your funding, your venture firm, and kind of what you guys are looking for to kind of set the stage.
Thank you very much, Jeffrey. Sitting here and listening to Galen and Benton in the first panel, I almost have begun to think that I don't know enough. Okay, I don't know enough about angel investing. Although I've been an angel investor, I've risked my capital, but I've done it all old school. I've done it myself. I've not, been part of any angel network. And I was like, what the hell was I doing? I should have got in touch with it. So, I have invested, but, a lot of it was, the friends network, the alumni network. And then, one thing led to another. And then, come a couple of years back, I actually started a venture capital, firm. And we've kind of invested in a bunch of companies. But, I truly believe that, we were not getting to the 30 as yet, but we're probably around 10. And philosophically, I have kind of tried to match new school angel investing with old school value investing. So it's almost like, an oxymoron. How can you have angel investing? Most people think of it as, invest in companies that are high growth. You've got to invest in the next Facebook, invest in the next, the next Google. But I've taken a different take on this. I'm investing for the long term. So companies that actually make a profit, and then you grow that profit. It's a more longer term game, and that's where I've actually seen success. And we've invested in a wide variety of companies, including, and I started off investing in India, and for no particular reason except that I could at that point of time only write small checks, and those checks would go a longer way in India than in Canada or in North America. So for that only reason, I started off in India, and I probably wouldn't have made an accredited investor list at that point of time. But it is what it is. So and I as Benton mentioned, you get lucky once or twice, and then that kind of gets you going. So I think that's what happened to me as well. And I think we're now looking at investments in Canada as well.
Brilliant. I like it. And that's a great segue into how you took an opportunity and went after it. And it didn't matter the size. You figured out what market you could get into, and you started making investments. So that's a great story, and think very well for sharing that. Arjun, on your side, you've got a very vast background, and you're a builder. So I'm excited to hear kind of where you guys are at right now. I know we've chatted a bit about it, but maybe just to give us some landscape on kind of some of the great things that you've been up to with inside of Sigma Group.
JP, thank you very much. First of all, I would like to thank Chris for giving me that beautiful and articulate and stunning introduction. I must admit that I learned a lot from JP today and Benton and Gillen about angel investing. So Sigma Group, as Chris did point out, is a family office with operating companies across multiple sectors such as software, technology, marketing, real estate, hospitality, financing, etc. I started as an entrepreneur about 30 years ago, early 90s. And by the way, for the entrepreneurs and investors, I must tell you that the world did not exist as it exists today. Although JP says that, by the way, in 2020, that we are not seeing the numbers as we did see in 2019. I do understand up to 2019, Canada was in a ramp up mode. But in the last few months, we have seen these numbers not live up to our expectations. Totally agree. But if I compare this to 30 years ago, the venture capital environment did not exist in Canada. So when I started Sigma Systems, and there came a time that my company was ready to go public. So until then, by the way, I funded it with my own funds. So I was fortunate enough to have worked in the Silicon Valley prior to that. So what I did actually, I went and knocked the doors of some of my friends and some of my customers, and they introduced me to guess who? They introduced me to Forbes magazine publishes Midas 100. I'm sure you are all familiar with Midas 100. These are the 100 top deal makers in that year. So if you look at the Forbes magazine of 1999, Vinod Khosla was number one. Michael Grimes of Morgan Stanley was probably number two, number three, etc., etc. So what did I do? I was gutsy enough to go and knock on the doors of those four people. I said, I only want money from these names. So I go to Vinod Khosla, and as I said, I was lucky enough to be introduced to him. I don't think Kleiner Perkins those days was the world's most leading VC firm, period. Sequoia Capital was also did not have the same name as Kleiner did. Now the world has changed. Kleiner's ranking has gone down a little bit, and Sequoia is number one. So I was lucky at that point to, by the way, as I said, raise funding from these names. But most of the entrepreneurs in Canada could not really, the environment did not exist. Look at the environment right now, what Galen and what, by the way, Benton described. Honestly speaking, I am going to be signing up me and my family to these angel groups for one reason and one reason only. And that is to be with the people that are smart, that know what's going on. So investment for me in these groups will be a secondary objective. It will definitely be an objective. So big round of applause for Galen and Benton, by the way, to open my eyes to it. And I want to be very honest with you, like when somebody hears that you have raised money from Kleiner Perkins and Vinod Khosla was on your board and Orange Chair Sanjeev Ahuja was on your board. So Andy, you know everything about this. So I want to be publicly tell you that no, even though I have raised money from these people, millions of dollars over the years, and more recently from Birchall Capital and Dave Samuel in Canada, but I skipped this particular step of angel investing. So I'm going to subject my family, my kids through this route of angel investing, and I myself will be there to learn from all of you guys.
Andy, I was going to say, after which we should start our own angel fund, not angel group. I was thinking of names, the Maple Masala Fund.
That's awesome.
Yeah. So sorry, everybody else on this panel knows much more than me about angel investing. So if you want to know anything about angel investing, don't call me, call any one of these people and you will be further. However, having said that, in the Sigma family office, by the way, I have incubated, accelerated, operated, mentored, advised many companies over the years. Over the last 30 years, I have bought companies, I have sold companies, I have lost money in companies, I have built software products, and most of them have not seen the market, and some of them have seen the market globally. So if you want to talk to somebody who has been through it all, and I don't like to sound arrogant, by the way, who has seen all the pains of investing, entrepreneurship, etc., I'm the guy to talk to, and would love to talk to anybody that is listening to this webinar. If they want my advice, I'm freely available, free of cost, free of charge. I don't even want to invest in you unless you want me to invest in you or invest with you. So, JP, back to you, my friend.
Well, Arjun, I'm going to say that you're selling yourself short. You're actually a very smart man. You've accomplished a lot, and I would believe that everybody on this panel will wholeheartedly agree that we're excited and glad that you're going to take that step. If I had a microphone, it would be a microphone drop moment right now. That's how amazing that talk was. I'm like speechless. I don't even know what else to say anymore. I'm out of here. But that was great. Thank you very much for that. You shared a lot, and that was amazing. So to be an angel investor, you're already there, sir. You led the way 30 years ago. So great hustle. Love to hear that. Mute it. You're on. Now it's time to glory. Let's hear this because you've done a lot of great things yourself. So I'm excited.
Man, like I wish I was not going after Andy. I mean, how do you follow up after that? That's tough. I mean, kudos to all you guys. And first of all, I mean, I feel really privileged to be in this accomplished company. I don't deserve to be here when I hear all this. And I'll tell you this interesting story about this. I actually know every single person in this. I don't think they actually remember who I am, except for maybe Andy. I've never got the privilege of meeting you, so I'm glad you're on the panel. But Benton was the person who was kind enough to put me in front of GTAN back in the day when I was doing rounds with my first startup. And he was kind enough, if I look into my emails, we'll find an email from him. He probably does not remember me. He sees too many startups. And he was kind enough to give us great feedback. Gillen and I, when this started, we were just exchanging a note saying, holy crap, we haven't seen each other in so long. I've known him, from, again, my first startup days, not pitching him, but just sharing ideas. He was building a cool startup. Vijay, actually, I got a chance to meet him last year in his office up in Young & Shepherd. Young & Shepherd with, my company had been acquired and we have a common connection who was a sales rep. So, this life it's such a small community of people. You keep meeting them. So, again, I'm extremely privileged to be on this panel. I don't deserve to be, but I guess from an introduction standpoint, I've been an entrepreneur now for close to 7 years. I some success, some failure. Right now, I'm trying to do a little bit of angel investing. I'm not as sophisticated as some few guys, but I love the hustle of an entrepreneur. I love supporting them any way I can, be it through capital, be it through network. Anything I can do for them. We'll probably get into this a little bit as to how I kind of find the right company to invest in at the stage that I'm at. But outside that, from a professional standpoint, again, I was very lucky. One of my really good friends and mentors decided to start a holding company where they wanted to use to acquire the companies, and he wanted me to come and join them and help with a lot of the M&As and operation side of it. So that's what I'm up to now. My title is Chief Revenue Officer, but that's a misleading title, and it sounds too big. It's not that big. All I do is try to find great companies that may be interested in joining our vision and maybe make them part of our family. Hopefully, one day we'll build the Sigma group. That's kind of the aspiration.
Well, it sounds like you guys are well on your way from all of the things that read and we've seen and chatted to. So kudos and congrats again on all of you for all of your successes and where you've come from. So one of the questions and we've all touched on this, and I think you just kind of touched on it, and maybe you want to dive into it first, which is when you are investing in a company or you're doing an M&A or you're selling, buying, and all of you have gone through this process, what is the criteria? Is there one or two things that you can denote that you really think stand out when you're observing and looking to invest in a company? What do you think is those 2 points that really, this is what I need to see?
Yeah, I can go first. I would not talk about M&As here because that's just a very different beast altogether and very complex in the way the deals get structured. But from a pure angel investor, again, I'm a very early stage angel investor. I love what both Galen and Benton said. You only have so much capital to deploy. It's a very risky asset class. So I got to be cognizant of that. So I'm looking for two really big things. One, I have a personal theme around where retail is moving, and I like to invest in that ecosystem. I've kind of boxed myself. Of course, I sometimes go outside that box based on interesting opportunities, but that's really my core right now. Interesting technology companies in the retail ecosystem. And then the second side of it is, and I've talked about this in multiple times that Chris and I have talked about to Schulich entrepreneurs is, I love talking to entrepreneurs that have a balance of vision and execution. Too often I meet incredible people who think they can make the best Facebook, which is awesome, but they have no idea how to actually make it. And there's also enough incredible people, is the other side of it, which they kind of know how to do day-to-day, but don't have a grand vision. It's how do you find that either an entrepreneur or team that has the balance is kind of what I really look for. The rest kind of falls in place, right? I'm a small check, so it's a privilege to even be included in that conversation sometimes, and they allowing me to be on a cap table, right? We talk about Swift. I mean, holy crap, that was a competitive round. Just the fact that I could get in was a big deal. So that's kind of what my theory has been. At the stage that I'm at, it's so hard to, we talk about due diligence, but it is so hard to do intense due diligence. When I look at the M&A side, that's a very different due diligence thing that we do. It takes months to actually do a lot of those things properly. At the angel level that I'm at, I've kind of figured out that this is really risk capital, and I'll probably get zero at the end of the day. And if I get lucky, one of these will work out of the 30, hopefully, that I get to, and then that will be, the next DoorDash or Airbnb or whatever did the IPO yesterday. So that's kind of my thesis.
Oh, I love it. And those are two good areas that you're looking at, and the fine balance between those is vision and execution. It is tough. You're right. when you're starting off at that early stage, how can, the founders may not see themselves where they're going to be in 5 years or 10 for that matter. So I think being able to understand that you're getting into a visionary position or investing in that, I think that's brilliant. And of course, retail is a good spot. It's always moving and shaking, and there's a lot happening in that environment too. So great to hear that. DJ, on your side, you guys have been investing. You're doing a lot of early stage investing in India, but now you're kind of diversifying across. What are the couple of things that you feel really stand out when you're looking at making those investments?
And I think I'll be honest, when Benton mentioned sidecar investments, right there, I was like, you know what? He's used the right term. I couldn't articulate that right, but that was the term. So most of my initial investments were sidecar to somebody else, a friend that was already investing, somebody that I thought was smarter, knew that space better, somebody who knew that founder better than I did, and I did sidecar. Okay, Benton, thank you very much for that term. I was a sidecar investor until I kind of found out my own investment philosophy. What do I believe in? What am I more comfortable with, right? And I think that's something that you've got to build yourself. It's the same as investing in stock. You got value investors, you got momentum investors, you got everybody, and then everybody wins. I mean, everybody wins. Everybody has their day, but you got to stick to what your philosophy is. And until you find your philosophy, being sidecar, I think, is not a bad thing, right? I mean, so you follow. In fact, even in investment, there is a whole group called Guru Investing. Guru Investing is a style of investing. You follow a couple of investment gurus, and you know what? Just follow what they're doing, and then most times you kind of be okay. So I think that's where I kind of did. Now I think we've got to a point where I'm bullish enough, or I'm gutsy enough to make those calls myself, and I think that's where we're doing some of those things. I've kind of come to my idea of this is where I want it to be, where I can make a difference as well. We're looking at angel and maybe a little more involved. So I've come up with my model of what works for my investment. So I think where you'll take some time to get to that, or if not, I mean, you probably need to join an angel group, which I did not have the knowledge of, or did not have the opportunity to join. So I had to come up with this myself, and it's kind of worked out. But I will definitely, as Andy said, Andy, you and I will go to these groups together. I am going to come along with you.
Well, I like it. It's a good breakdown. And you're right. The sidecar way is a very quick way into investing. It's a good way to learn. Mm-hmm. Find the one that's the person that's the most influential and jump on board. And that's pretty common. It does happen a lot. And I think Mudit said it perfectly, is that due diligence takes a lot of time. Mm-hmm. And there's a lot of effort that goes into that. And if you really don't know what you're doing, then you really don't know what you're looking at. And I think this kind of goes back to Arjun and your experience and your philosophy in the companies that you've been buying, merging, selling into your business. You have a vision. So you have something that you're looking for in these companies. And it's just like angel investing, except for you're investing in your business and you're bringing these in together. Is there a couple things that stand out when you're making an investment or making a purchase or even a sale into the Sigma Group?
So JP, I'll be very honest with you. I'm not that smart and intelligent. So I'm very simplified. I'm a simple-minded person. So I look for 3 C's. And first C stands for the customer. That means I will invest in somebody or an idea where either the customer is there or customer would be there. Like basically, the market has to be there. The second C I look for is the character of the founder or the founding team. And what I mean by character has many things: commitment, conviction, how much is he committed to the idea and working. Third C will come to you as a surprise, is I look for cost consciousness in the founder. Why? Because as JP, you said, the number 2 reason for companies to fail is running out of money. Because if you have unlimited amount of money, I can make any idea sell. right? If you give me infinite amount of money, I will create bigger companies than Amazon and Google's and what have you. So cost consciousness, because we are dealing with limited funds. And therefore, I want to see in the founder the cost consciousness that if he is going to be using my money, it should not be going in his pocket. It should be, I don't want him traveling in limousines, etc. I want him to be Ubering, preferably shared Uber, so that those are simply those 3 C's. I'm a quick decision maker because I don't think I have not learned how to do thorough due diligence on people. So if I like somebody, I like the idea, and I see that person is cost consciousness, they will have very good traction with me.
I love it. That's awesome. So three things to focus on. I just want to make sure I got these. Customer. Is it culture?
Call it whatever. Customer, character of the founding team.
Okay.
Very
and then
important.
Cost.
And then the cost consciousness. So 3 C's basically.
I like that.
Just to add to what Andy said, I think on our side as well, being frugal is one of our core values. So we wear it on our sleeve as well. I think it's probably a cultural thing as well, but frugality I think is something that I think I most of the places we invest in, we definitely look for that as well.
JP, I will tell you my mentor and my first investor, Vinod Khosla. He was also the founder of Sun Microsystems. So this is the public information that he had, by the way, a corporate policy that his entire company would only use Bic pens. And I'm holding a Bic in my hand. I mean, this is not Bic. This is a Marriott, but I'm sure it's made by Bic. So I think I have held on to that particular principle. So in Sigma group of companies, as long as I was the CEO of the company, there was no business class travel, period. Whether the customer is paying for it or Sigma is paying for it, doesn't matter. Now, when I left the CEO position and became the chairman of the board, I'm sure I saw a lot of business class tickets actually happening at that point. But my principle was everybody will, if you are traveling at the expense of the company, it's going to be economy class. If you're taking a vacation, you can go in first class if you want.
I like it. Well, you know what? At the end of the day, there's a lot of learning that we can take from investors, CEOs, other management executives. We just got to listen. Put your ear down and listen to the things that they've done and read. There's a lot of books out there that can help. And like you said, you pulled out little nuggets along the way. I've got a few that I learned from Mr. Carter. And maybe one day I'll get to go on an episode and share all these little anecdotal things I learned over the years from him. Same with Benton and Galen and you guys. Man, this is great. Learned a ton. So we do have a couple questions that have come up from the audience. So I do have a bunch more, but I know we're limited on time, but you guys have done a phenomenal job. So I'm going to ask one quick question and then we'll grab a Chris Crescent. Is that cool?
That's cool.
All right. So now that you guys have figured out these types of companies you're working with, how do you get them to trust and believe in you? You've made this investment. How do you get them to work with you? I think this is crucial because if I'm going to go all the way out and make an investment into a company, I'm a first-time angel investor, I'm excited for what I'm doing. How do I, even if I'm doing a sidecar, how do I get them to want to talk with me or work with me? What kind of things do you see where that value exchange is there? How do I get that moving and those balls rolling forward? Vijay, you want to take it?
Yeah, I can take that. And I think, that's something that, there's a continuum where you're passive at one part of the continuum and you're active at one part of the continuum, right? I mean, there's no right and wrong here. You don't need to be active in every investment, right? If you're sidecar, my approach on most of the sidecar investments were let the guys who know more be the active guys. I tried once or twice and through sheer, learning, I learned from my own mistakes. I'm like, you know what? I don't have the time for this. There's a lot of cadence. There's a lot of calls. There's a lot of stuff that needs to happen. Then you come up with your own formula. I want to be on a quarterly call. I want to be on an annual call. I don't want to be on the monthly call. Okay, so there may be some of the more recent investments where we'll be also putting, writing bigger checks and have a larger chunk of the company. You're probably on weekly calls, right? You're getting more. So I think there is no single formula, but I think it depends on how much skin you have in the game, how much you've got invested, how much you can move the needle. I think those are things that you will begin to realize very soon. I would not recommend some place where you really are a very, very tiny investor and trying to do too much. Again, this could be wrong. Maybe I will learn better when I join the angel network. These are things that I learned on my own. But this is I kind of came up to some of these things myself. And by the way, Chris, I've invested in some companies where Ratan Tata was also an angel investor. So I try to wear that with a little bit of street cred. So I got some street cred of being side by side investor with Ratan Tata.
I love it.
Can I say something? I want to say something to Chris. Chris, when you introduced me that I work for Tata Group and Mr. Ratan Tata is on your board or something like that.
Yes.
So just I want to let you know that I was hired from University of Waterloo by none other than the father of Indian computing, Mr. Fakir Chand Kohli. He's called FCK. He actually died just 2 weeks ago.
Yes.
And every time he came to Canada, I hosted him for a dinner. But FCK has done for India, I think he's a bigger name than even Ratan Tata, to be very honest with you. And even Mr. Tata will agree with me. He put India on the IT map of the world, by the way. So what a legend, total legend. And once again, such a simple man that when he would come to Canada, he would not even take the taxi. He would expect one of the TCS employees to pick him up from the airport. And I hope TCS people are listening to this and they will vouch with me.
Love it.
Can I also, JP, can I also address, you said as an investor, how should you engage? So first of all, with entrepreneur and investor, it's a two-way street. And second thing, once you have chosen an entrepreneur to invest in him, you have to give them a free hand for the most part. Your role as an investor should be that of an advisor, not that of a controller. So you have to be very careful that you do not come across as saying, I want to control you. You have to come across saying, I want to assist you. I want to serve you. I want to help you where you need my help. Let them drive the car. You have given the car to them to drive it. Let them drive it. You sit you just have to watch them do it. Okay, that's just.
No, well said. I totally agree with that. And to me, it's about supporting, and you really are there as a support factor. So you're there to be an ear. But I still think that there's a way for you to kind of get in with that group or get in with the CEO so that they trust you. And I think, Judith, you want to jump on this?
Yeah. Let me give you my take on this again, because I always think about this as, first of all, again, it's a privilege that anybody allows you to invest in their company. You have to, as an angel investor, consider that as a privilege. This is not here's my money. It's not about that. If you're a good entrepreneur, you can raise money from millions of people. The good entrepreneurs are not looking for investors. The investors are looking for them. Right? So it's a privilege. You got to understand that it's always a privilege. And if they're giving you a privilege, at least, again, I'm talking about a very specific angel group, which is putting the 5 to 25K check size, kind of the average realm of things for angel investors, is your check technically is worth not a lot of money to them, because these folks will go and raise 5, 10, 20, $100 million. Your check size will be like, nobody cares about it. So that means that you have to always punch above your weight class. Why will an entrepreneur call you at 3 a.m. at night versus the VC partner that just gave them a beautiful check? That's what you got to think about as an angel investor, right? So that's what makes me the most proud about a lot of companies that I invest in. I'm their friend. It's like, hey man, like, did you mess up? I want you to call me when you messed up, not when you've got the most amazing customer success story, because I invested in you because I believe in you. But I want you to trust me enough to call me in your darkest times. That's the kind of philosophy that I have on this. Now, having said that, I can't get the relationship with everyone. It's impossible, because sometimes you got to get to the chemistry. I've tried that with most. I'll give you a very specific example, actually, of a company. It's called Scener. They're based out of Seattle. They're based out of Seattle. And I think Netflix can be one of their biggest customers. I got in that through a syndicate, and my check size, again, there is a very big round. My check size was not even a drop in that bucket. I just emailed both the founders and I said, hey man, like, I just had a conversation with the corp dev of Netflix. And I think there's something interesting here. Here's what I learned. I hope this is useful. And that's how you kind of start building that relationship with them. And immediately within 5 minutes, the reply came back, man, thank you so much. And now you're in that gang, right? You're in the clique. They can call on you. And that's how I kind of do it. Especially if you're like trying to invest across, right? GTA is a community, but if you're trying to invest across North America and if you can't see them all the time, especially through syndicates, how do you do that? On the syndicate side, I'm not part of these two, and I love to find a way to get to the two groups we talk about. I use AngelList a lot. I'm on Jason Kalanick as a syndicate, who's one of the leading angel investors. I always try to find a way to get in front of the entrepreneur, not as, hey, I've got 10 questions for you. It's more like, I'm interested in investing. I've done my due diligence. How can I help? It's always like that. And sometimes they don't need help. And sometimes they do. And most of the time, entrepreneurs who are raising money need help in finding great talent, or they have problems that they're trying to solve and they don't have the answer for it. And it could be very simple problems that you have faced. And if you can solve those two things for them, help them accelerate their product roadmap, they will trust you. And that's kind of how I build it. But also as an angel investor, just be ready for the fact that once they start raising a lot of money, they'll probably forget about you. And maybe then you'll get one investor update, and that's okay. You got to live with that.
JP, if I may just add to that, I mean, I'm sorry, I probably misread your question, but yes, absolutely. I think empathy is a big one. If you empathize with them, one of our recent investments was in a made in Canada apparel company, and they got an order from Health Canada to make gowns, and they had to ship this the next day morning, and they were short. So they called me in the night, and I went to the shop floor in the morning, and we got that shipment going through. So I'm a mechanical engineer by training. So, I knew a little bit about production and stuff like that. So we got that going early in the morning. By 9 o'clock, the truck came and we delivered, right? So that was the first big delivery, and that happened. So the fact that I was able to help brought the confidence in them as well. And the next time onwards, I just asked on the one day before delivery, do you need help? And they said, no, we've got it this time, right? But they knew that you've got their back. And then sometimes when I really cannot help as well, empathy does help. You're like, just hang in there, this will pass, just hang in there. I think that's most times as well, they're looking for a reassuring word, and the way I look at this is, you can shout and scream and talk about the numbers. Most times shouting and screaming doesn't really help. It does, maybe get a little bit of more, get people to get, a little more serious about stuff, but it really does not going to make a difference. So I think empathy does really help a little bit, more than shouting and screaming. So in that sense, I think the fact that if you've got multiple other people with bigger size checks, the VCs, they're sometimes a little more, more numbers driven. And I think, as Mudit said, if you bring that empathy to the table, you're definitely adding value to the business as well.
Well said. No, all of you guys, brilliant. Chris, do we have time for that one question, or do we leave it in the Q&A?
No, what I'm going to tell you, Jeffrey, is what's really interesting is that this last outpouring of expression of ideas and emotion and passion that came out of the panel here ticked off all three of the next questions I was going to ask. So it's just like a perfect way to bring us to the wrap up. So thank you to everyone who's been here, and thank you for everything you brought to the table. We're going to do a little bit of a close, talk about what brought us together, and then we'll wrap up. So Vito, if you could bring us along with the next piece of the presentation, that would be great.
I just want to do one little wrap up, if that's cool, just to kind of refocus around all the things that we talk about, if that's all right, if that's good.
Absolutely. Do that now, and then I'll go into the end.
Perfect. So I just want to say thank you very much, guys. You were phenomenal. I think we could have had this panel go for at least another hour, just like we could have with the first panel. So we probably could have made this a full day. So Chris, maybe we think about that next time. Just kidding. But it was really good. Honestly, what I liked about the discussion is that, one, we brought up that sidecar piece, but it really focused in on vision and execution. When you're looking at building this portfolio, have a philosophy, have a theme, have a direction you're going after. It's going to help you a lot in when you're trying to make an investment or at least start. It doesn't have to be the only thing you know in the world, so you just stick to that, but start to learn and educate yourself and find an area where you think, if it's, I'm only going to invest up to 10 million in a valuation, I won't go higher. That's part of that structure. So just find that structure and then start to fill it with companies that you think really fit where you want to go. I love the fact that you guys talked about it, which was, you're going to have skin in the game. You're going to move the needle. You're going to want to get into founders that are doing this and figure out how you can help them solve problems. Because it's not just about throwing money into something. It's about rolling your sleeves up. It's exactly going on that production floor and helping out when they need that help. Because you know what? In 5 years from now, that company is going to be massive. And they're going to laugh at the time when you went in your shorts in the middle of winter to help them out. So those are the things that are going to make a difference. And I love the line, it's a privilege to invest. I think that really denotes the entirety of what we talked about, is that take the respect that you're investing in this company, that they're allowing you in, and do what you can to help them grow. I'm a big startup fan, and I've always say, reach out and help a startup. People probably thought I was nuts 10, 20 years ago when I was doing this at Loblaws and everywhere else, but it really makes a difference in helping these companies get a leg up. And if that's a one intro, or it's one sale, or it's a small check, all of those things help. So gentlemen, next one, we're going to get way more women in this, but outside of that, you guys were all awesome, and I'm glad I was part of it. So thank you.
Thanks, guys.
Thanks, Jeffrey. And I'm just going to add my quick thought to this, and then ask the group here to stay with us just for one last moment while we wrap up and talk about some of the inspiration behind it. So first of all, what I want to tell you is that my team, or some of the leaders at Schulich, will tell you that when we started out on building the Schulich startup community a couple of years ago, one of the dreams, one of the things that I put out there as like a manifestation that I was looking for, was that we would create a community that had enough vibrancy and electricity and fun around it, and inspiration, that it would draw amazing people who may or may not have had anything to do with Schulich in their lives into the events, into the conversations that we were doing. But then not only would the education come for the students and the alumni in our community, but that those people would start to come together and have these amazing collisions and connections and build new friendships through coming into the community that would go back out and create other things. And so I've been, have different dreams. One of my dreams was that there would be like an investor who would invest in a Schulich startup when they showed up to Schulich startup night. It was an alumni, and I had and they've been coming true. And today, this was one of those moments, because I wanted to have a moment where a group of people all came together and some really amazing new connections formed. And so when we had that mic drop moment, Jeffrey, talking about people like teaming up together or joining up together, I really appreciated seeing that happen. So thank you to all of you for helping make that energy that brought us to that point today. Well, the thing I wanted to wrap up and talk to you about is Together 2021 for the group here, and also for everybody involved. I talked about Mr. Tata being on our advisory board. It was last November, a year ago, that I flew to India with the then Dean, now Dean Emeritus Horvath, to meet with our advisory board and to meet with our students in Hyderabad at our campus. And when I met with Mr. Tata, I talked about the possibilities of connecting in a deeper way the two ecosystems, the innovation ecosystem in Toronto and India, and how Schulich could help facilitate that. When the presentation was over, he walked up and he said to me, "Great presentation, keep going." Just those two sentences. And then he headed off with the dean and did his thing. But, he has such a calm charisma and an energy that is like, incredible. And it just lit me up and made me want to do more and do something exciting. When the pandemic happened, then we started working right away on how could we help our students in India by getting them placements remotely, because in the Zoom world, There, you didn't have to be in Toronto anymore to do your placement, right? Before, people wanted to meet you and have a coffee with you and sit down somewhere in a cafe. But now we could line up all these students to have placements with founders all throughout our community. And we got, within 30 days of the pandemic, we had 30 of our students from India all placed with founders to work together. Well, we're fortunate enough that through this work and our community rallying in this way, this attracted the attention of the government of India and Startup India. And in the summer, they reached out and they proposed to us the idea that we would do something even bigger together, and that in January, we would do an entrepreneurial boot camp and venture competition to bring together students, 100 students from India, with their ideas and their startup inspirations, together with 150 students from Schulich and York University, from Lausanne, from the engineering school. And together they would work on these ideas through the competition. And then they would go in front of some of the top investors and unicorn founders in India to look at their ideas and get behind them. And so we started to reach out then to other groups, and we reached out to people like VJ and ICCC and got involved. And this is how this started to happen. So we'll continue along through the presentation, talk about what happened next. So we've got this happening for January 4th, 10th. Fido, you can continue. And we decided we would focus on some very specific sectors. So we've briefed the students on these different sectors, and we've asked them to look at challenge statements. And some of them have already been working on these startups over the last year. Some of them have new ideas. And we asked them to look at these sectors of national importance in collaboration with the government of India. And we said, in addition to that, we want to really look at self-reliability for India. So these startup companies we're helping our students from Schulich and from York University are working on, but they're to be owned by the students in India for the benefit and the good of India. They each have to have a lens on how sustainability matters to the business. It doesn't have to be the core of the business, but it has to be something that they reflect on in terms of what it means to be sustainable. And then they have to also reflect on what is the social purpose, the deeper mission of the company to do good within the community. So we'll continue on, Vito. So our partner in this is Startup India, which is the largest organization working in the startup ecosystem in India, and they've been fantastic to work with. We've teamed up, put this all together. And these are some of the partners that we brought on board that are helping us, that are supporting us through the process to get going. And we're putting together now the championship round when the top companies compete, which will be on January 10th, live online. We have some of the top investors in India that are going to be sitting with them, that have promised them private interviews for all the top 10 companies to sit down and walk through their companies in detail. We have $50,000 of prizing that we've raised and put forward to help to support some of the companies, top 3 companies as they get going. And then we've lined up with T-Hub in Hyderabad to take many of them into their incubation programs as well. So what we're looking for as well, as you talk to your networks and as you look out through the ICCC membership, we're looking for people who are inspired to help out. We're looking to take our prize funding that we have up another notch by the time we get to January 4th, or any companies that are interested in sponsoring a team, sponsoring one of those sectors that I mentioned that are particularly inspired, or also people might be interested in mentoring in the program as well too. One of the pieces that we put together here, and this is like really exciting to me because I've already told you my passion for connecting people together, is that we've recruited 50 mentors from Canada and 50 mentors from India. And every one of the student teams gets an Indian mentor and a Canadian mentor to work together with them through the boot camp. And not only is the vision for them to work with the companies, the vision is for each of those new friendships that gets formed between the two mentors to lead to other things, other possibilities, other connections. It won't happen with every pair, but if 10 of the pairs, 15 of the pairs of the 50 connect in a really exciting way, it's going to lead to some stories that like 3, 4, 5, 10 years from now will be really interesting in terms of how they met through the competition. So if you'd be interested in helping us out, I'd love to connect with you on LinkedIn. You can find me, Chris Carter, the Executive Director of Innovation and Entrepreneurship for the Schulich School of Business, and a lifelong entrepreneur. And you can also reach out to VJ Thomas, who's been our amazing partner in helping put this together, not only today, but supporting us and putting Together 2021. Thanks everyone for hanging out with us. Thanks again to the panel. We had a great time. I hope you'll be involved in more Schulich events in the future. And if you have any questions about Together 2021, please give me a shout. Thanks, Jeffrey. Thanks, panel. We'll see everyone soon.